Module 3, Challenge Activity 3.1.1, Positive Slope. An agriculturist is trying to determine if a certain fertilizer affects the yield of a crop. In this case, we're trying to see if one thing affects another. That means that the initial thing in that situation is the predictor variable, because what we're trying to decide is if that amount of fertilizer or certain fertilizer will create a higher crop yield or lower crop yield or nothing. So in that case, the predictor variable is amount of fertilizer, and the response variable is the crop. It wouldn't make sense to take the crop and try to predict the amount of fertilizer, right? A farmer wouldn't, or agriculturist wouldn't care so much about that, but the other way around. So remember to think about that. Which one are we using to predict the other? So let's check. That's expected. A little nice green check mark telling us we did it correctly. Let's click next. A boutique is trying to determine whether the amount of time a customer spends browsing in the store affects the amount the customer spends. The plot below shows the relationship between browsing time and amount spent. In this case, browsing time is our X variable, our predictor, and we're trying to decide if that can determine the amount spent in dollars. That's our Y variable up here on the vertical axis. So one thing we see is this overall increasing pattern. So as X is increasing, so is Y. It does appear to be pretty linear. You know, we would know more if we were to get a correlation coefficient to be a more definitive answer to whether or not there's linear correlation, but overall it does look like a pretty linear pattern. Now if we saw data points, like my little squiggly with the cursor, data points all over the place, that would be a little less linear or concentrated in that dispersion. All right, so it says based on the scatter plot, is a linear model appropriate? Just like I said, because it does show like an overall linear pattern. Now I want to point out, just based on what I saw from the assignments last week, it doesn't have to be positive. Positive is when X increases, so does Y. A negative linear relationship is so X increases, Y decreases. So that would be a line going down this way. That's also linear as long as the overall data is in kind of a straight line pattern. So we're going to say yes, just based on the shape of the scatter plot. Let's check expected. All right, if you guys have any questions about how to do that problem or anything else, let me know.